Welcome to Simply Explained Academy. Today, I want to talk about something that comes up all the time when people hear about Bitcoin. Can Bitcoin ever just disappear? Or worse yet, can it be hacked? It's totally natural to worry. After all, this is a digital currency running on lines of code, and it's still pretty new compared to traditional money. So let's walk through exactly what Bitcoin is, why its network has held up so far, where the real weak spots are, and whether there's any scenario where Bitcoin could just vanish or get compromised. Alright, so what is Bitcoin really? Think of it like a giant digital notebook that lives online. Every time someone sends Bitcoin, that transaction gets written down in the notebook. But instead of one person keeping track, thousands of computers around the world, called nodes, all have the same exact copy. That way, no one can cheat or erase anything. Now, these transactions get grouped into blocks, and each new block gets linked to the one before it. That's what we call the blockchain. It's just a chain of blocks full of transactions. But here's the fun part. To add a new block, computers called miners compete to solve a hard puzzle. The first one to solve it gets to add the block and earn some new Bitcoin. This process keeps everything secure and running smoothly. So in simple terms, Bitcoin is a super secure, shared digital ledger, protected by thousands of computers working together to keep it fair and trustworthy. So let's talk about the big question a lot of people have. Can the Bitcoin network actually be hacked? Now, in theory, yeah, there is something called a 51% attack. That's when someone gains control of more than half of all the mining power in the network. If they pulled that off, they could try to mess with recent transactions or even spend the same Bitcoin twice, basically cheating the system. But here's the thing. In real life, pulling that off would be insanely expensive. We're talking tens of billions of dollars just to get the hardware, plus a massive electricity bill to run all of it. And even if someone did it, it would probably crash the whole system. People would panic, lose trust, the price would drop like crazy, and the attacker would end up hurting their own investment. So yeah, on paper, it's possible. But in reality, it just doesn't make sense. It's like buying a house just to burn it down. But what about the actual technology that keeps Bitcoin safe? You might be wondering, how do we know it can't be hacked? Well, Bitcoin uses some really strong cryptography. Think of it like a digital lock that's incredibly hard to pick. It makes sure that when someone sends Bitcoin, the transaction is legit and nobody can fake it or mess with it. Some folks worry quantum computers might one day break those algorithms, but real-world, largest-scale quantum machines are still years away, and Bitcoin is open source. Before quantum threats become real, developers can upgrade the cryptography through a protocol update, so we'll have time to adapt. Okay, so the protocol is rock solid. But what about hacks we've actually seen? You probably remember Mt. Gox back in 2014, where 850,000 BTC disappeared. Or the Bitfinex hack in 2016, when 120,000 BTC went missing. More recently, in late 2022, FTX collapsed in a spectacular way. Even though that was more mismanagement and fraud than a hack of Bitcoin itself, it reminded everyone that exchanges and custodial platforms can fail. The key takeaway is that it's not Bitcoin's blockchain getting hacked, it's the third-party services holding your coins. That's why cold storage and hardware wallets, where you keep your private keys offline, are so crucial if you want to sleep well at night. Alright, so here's another question people ask a lot. Could Bitcoin ever just disappear? Like, what if the internet went down everywhere? Well, yeah, that would definitely be a huge problem, but not just for Bitcoin. It'd mess up the whole world. But even then, smart developers have come up with some pretty cool ways to keep Bitcoin going. There are tools that work offline, mesh networks that can connect devices without regular internet, and even satellites that can send Bitcoin data. So the system can still work, even without Wi-Fi. And what if a government says, no more Bitcoin? That's happened before. China tried it. They can shut down exchanges, make it harder to buy or sell Bitcoin, sure, but they can't actually shut off Bitcoin itself. The network lives on thousands of computers all over the planet. So even if one country bans it, the rest of the world keeps it alive. As long as even one of those computers, called a node, is still running, Bitcoin keeps going. Now, what if people simply lose interest? Maybe some shinier project comes along and everyone abandons Bitcoin. That's always possible in tech history. Remember how MySpace was huge until Facebook came along? But Bitcoin has two huge advantages. First, it has a decade of proven security and uptime. Second, it has a massive brand and network effect. Those things don't evaporate overnight. Plus, Layer 2 solutions like the Lightning Network have matured, letting you send tiny Bitcoin payments almost instantly and with tiny fees. So the scalability concerns of old days aren't as dire now. So far, we've talked about theory and protocol, but let's get real about the actual threats you should worry about today. The biggest risk remains your own security practices. Phishing emails, fake wallet apps, malicious clones of legitimate services. Those are the attacks that actually succeed. If you store your Bitcoin on an exchange, yeah, you're exposed to counterparty risk. If that exchange gets hacked, runs off with the funds, or gets frozen by regulators, your Bitcoin is at risk. That's why so many people say, not your keys, not your coins. Hardware wallets, like Ledger, Trezor, and Coldcard, keep your private keys offline and out of reach of hackers. Now let's talk protocol bugs. Bitcoin's codebase is battle-tested. Everyone's eyes are on it. Bugs have popped up, but they've been caught and patched quickly. A truly catastrophic bug in Bitcoin itself is highly unlikely. And if something ever did go wrong, the community has a process, called BIPs, to upgrade the system without messing with its decentralized nature. So yeah, it's pretty solid. Mining centralization is another headline you'll see. You might hear that a few big mining pools control a large part of the Bitcoin network. And yeah, it's true. Some of the biggest pools have a lot of power. Now, in theory, if a few of them teamed up, they could try to mess with the system. But here's the catch. Doing that would actually hurt their own business. If people lose trust in Bitcoin, the value drops, and so does the money they're making. Plus, there are always smaller miners joining in, and new mining pools popping up. Some other coins are even testing ways to make mining more fair, so it doesn't all go to the big players. That doesn't change Bitcoin directly, but it helps keep the whole crypto mining world more balanced. Okay, we've run through the major technical threats. Now, why has Bitcoin survived all these scares? Simple. It was built for resilience. It's open source, peer-reviewed, truly decentralized with no single failure point, capped at 21 million coins, and governed by economics just as much as code. It took hits, price crashes in 2018, 2022, exchange hacks, regulatory crackdowns, and every time it bounced back stronger. Institutions now hold billions in Bitcoin, and in early 2024, the first spot Bitcoin ETFs launched in the US, opening the floodgates for traditional investors. Now, could something better come along and supplant Bitcoin? Technically, sure. There are blockchains with higher throughput, smart contracts, fancy governance models, but none match Bitcoin's blend of security, decentralization, and proven trust. First mover advantage and network effect matter. If a new system wants to replace Bitcoin, it has to match or beat it on those fundamentals, not just on speed or features. So, where does that leave us? Can Bitcoin ever disappear or be hacked? The honest answer is, the network itself is extraordinarily secure and incredibly unlikely to be hacked or vanish. The real dangers lie in third-party platforms, scams, hacks of exchanges or wallets, and poor personal security practices. That means if you want to use Bitcoin safely, you need to manage your own keys, use hardware wallets, back up your seed phrases in physical form, be vigilant against phishing, and only keep small amounts on exchanges for trading. Now, Bitcoin isn't perfect, no system is, but its architecture, from the Taproot upgrade in 2021, which improved privacy and smart contract flexibility, to the thriving Lightning Network, which now handles millions of transactions per day, shows that it can evolve, and it will almost certainly continue adapting to future threats, whether those come from quantum computing or new regulatory landscapes. So the next time someone asks you, could Bitcoin disappear or get hacked? You can tell them, not the Bitcoin network. That's about as close to bulletproof as technology gets. Just watch out where you store your coins and you'll be fine. If you enjoyed this deep dive, give it a like, share it with your friends, hit subscribe, and let me know in the comments what you think. Is there any threat we missed? Until next time, stay safe Stay curious and stay decentralized.